This is a Monday here in Canada, and I'm freaking pumped to just get in and deliver. So what say that we get started? All right, let's go from the top. Welcome to another episode of Q&A. First question from the team. All right, here we go. Can I bank my calories at the weekend? Can I use them at the weekend? I've a special meal out and I don't want to spoil my progress. I love this question. Do you ever feel like you are literally you're trying to hit your calorie target every day, but then that means that you get to the weekend and you've got no wiggle room to play with? Ever feel that? So you are absolutely right. There is a behavior or an idea called calorie cycling. And what calorie cycling is your ability to have high days and have low days. But if on the average you're hitting your calorie target, you will still lose weight. So let me put it into an example. Let's just say that you are wanting to hit 2,000 calories per day for the week. Okay, let's say that's your target to lose fat. Okay, so what an example could be is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you could choose to bank 200 calories for the weekend. So in other words, you would eat 1,800 Monday, 1,800 Tuesday, 1,800 Wednesday, 1,800 Thursday. So now you've banked yourself 800 calories, which you could then use on a Friday night. Ultimately, this is the flexibility that once you're confident in your tracking that you want to be able to have, right? Because it means that you're going to be able to have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. So you can absolutely do that. And when it comes to having a birthday or a special meal out with your partner or some friends, like that's the spice of life. Are you really going to give that stuff up? So absolutely, calorie cycling is the way forward. And good morning to everyone that's come in live since my morning high. Okay, guys, any other questions that you want to ask in the comments, you can do so, and I will just continue with the ones that we've got from our group. Next question. I'm doing great on my journey, but my wife isn't being supportive, meaning my life has changed and hers hasn't. Has this affected other men? Let us know in the comments if that's you. Not you, your question, but has that affected you? So I think this is a big deal, right? Our partner, the person that we choose to spend our life with, my gosh, it is huge as a decision, isn't it? You're not going to agree on everything, and that's not the point. But when it comes to making changes in your life and you growing as a human, well, your partner's either going to support you or they're going to enable your old behavior. And I think the biggest thing about transforming is that when you're doing really, really well and your partner's not doing well, it's not that they're doing worse than you, it's that they're feeling left behind. Now, in a lot of relationships, what starts to happen is questions like, oh, does he not like me anymore? Or does she not like me anymore? Or why does she need to get healthy? And why does she need to get fit? And the partner almost, they don't want to sabotage you, but they become a little bit jealous, I guess, that you're not spending that time, and they start to get caught in their own head about whether you're doing something wrong or they're doing something wrong. And it can really place a strain on the relationship. It can be an additional strain if you're both doing different things. So for example, if one of you is eating a certain way and the other one's eating another way, or one's sitting on the couch eating all the ice cream after dessert and you're sitting there trying to withhold and eat maybe something that's a bit less satiating, it gets really, really challenging. So to all of you that are struggling with this, Tez says, give her the flick. It is a big thing. It's a really, really big thing, and something that we've talked about inside of Better Body Academy for a long time, a hell of a long time. So what can you actually do about it? Okay, here's what I would do personally. Well, firstly, you're probably not going to go and just get divorced. That's probably not a good start. Start with opening the communication. I think that if you try to change your partner, that's when it becomes a problem. People change when they want to change. So what I would recommend you do is have a conversation with your partner about you and why you want to change. So Do not involve their feelings at all in terms of trying to project onto them what they should do. That's where you run into problems. What I would be personally recommending is you tell them how you feel, because ultimately you're changing for you, right? So if you feel crappy and you're sick of being tired and you're sick of feeling overweight and you're sick of feeling exhausted and all the things that you're sick of, you have a conversation with your partner and you tell them how you're feeling. That has no contradiction. They can't argue with how you're feeling. So if you share why you're feeling, that takes the pressure on them feeling off them feeling how they feel about their own life. Does this make sense? And from there, you can start to say, look, I'm not here to try to push you any other direction, but for me, this is why I want to change. Taking ownership over your life is really, really important. Next question. Lukey says, some days I'm away from the office and my lunch until, say, 3 p.m. Should I still be getting my afternoon snack on top of my lunch? This is a great question, Lukey. So the short answer to this is that how many meals you eat is not as important as the total amount of calories and protein that you eat. So as you know, Luke, as a client, that's the two things we focus on, the total amount of protein and the total amount of calories. Now, in your case, okay, you mentioned that should I still have my snack? I would say that if you have, let's say you've had a breakfast and then you have had nothing to eat until 3 p.m., you might call it an afternoon snack, but the reality is it a late lunch or an afternoon snack? Or is it an early dinner? It doesn't matter what it is. All that matters is at the end of your day, Luke, you have filled in the meals, okay, to help you hit your calorie and protein target. If you do that in 2 meals or if you do that in 8 meals, it doesn't really matter. In fact, this is one of the main problems with fasting. If you are a faster and you like fasting, I think it has a role and I think it's good. But the problem is when you fast for long periods, you start to chop out entire meals, which means that the average amount of protein that you've got to consume in those other meals skyrockets to the point where if you're having 2 meals a day and you're a man, you basically need to be eating 100 grams of protein at 2 meals. Like, that's really fucking difficult. So, Lukey, the short answer to the question is I would say take away from labeling them as afternoon tea, morning tea, breakfast, and just look at it as, is this helping me get to my protein target and my calorie target over the course of a day? And that's what you should use to determine whether you should eat more, eat less. Okay, next up. Keep the questions coming, team, and I'll keep answering them till we run out. Before starting in the academy, carbohydrates were 80% of my daily calories. What is a healthy percentage of carbohydrates to be consuming? Okay, so to answer this question, I'll explain very clearly. It's not that carbohydrates are bad. It's just that all of the macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbohydrates provide a number of calories. And then what we're trying to do is stick to a total calorie target. The order of importance, in my opinion, of those macronutrients by far and away is the top of the pile, protein. Protein is important for 2 main reasons. Number one, it's the building blocks of our muscles, and you're going to lose protein. So if you don't replace it, you lose muscle. Metabolism slows down, weight gain happens. Not good. So we want to slot our protein first. So if you're familiar with what we do, here's what we do. We've got a calorie target. We put our protein in first. The next thing that we should be putting in is our fat. So how much fat should you have in a day? This is only relevant if you're tracking on MyFitnessPal. If you're just following a meal plan, that's completely fine. But if you're tracking on MyFitnessPal, what target should you have in there for fat? I believe that you want to have about 50 to 60 grams a day. If you're a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter. 50 to 60 grams of fat a day will mean that you are getting enough fat to build the hormones, because that's what hormones are built from. Things like testosterone and estrogen are built from fat. So if you undereat fat, you cannot build those effectively. And then anything more than that is your personal choice. So let me just kind of get it clear. You've got your calories in, you set your calorie target first. You then put in the amount of protein. And if you're in Better Body Academy, you know what we recommend on that. The next step is to put in 50 to 60 grams of fat a day. And then from there, you can decide whether you want the rest of your calories to be either higher in carbohydrates or higher in fat. So what's going to depend on what's going to determine how much carbohydrate? It's basically going to be how much fat do you decide you want. So if you like things like olive oil and nuts and avocado, well, they're high in fat, and that means that your carbs, to stick to your calorie count, your carbs are going to need to be lower. But if, like me, you don't really care about filling up your calories with olive oil and avocado, and instead you would prefer to eat wraps and potatoes and pasta and rice and pizza, all the good shit, what you're going to do is you're going to do 150 to 200 grams of protein, you're going to do 50 grams of fat, and then you're going to basically let the rest of it be carbohydrate. And so how much carbohydrate is going to depend on your individual calorie target. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. And if anyone needs any clarification, I'll clarify it in the comments. And good morning, legends, everyone that's joining live. If you want to ask any questions, by all means, bang it into the comments. Okay, so can I honestly build muscle at 50 years of age? Well, you probably want to have a talk to people like Xanth and Janine and Nick Friend and Nick Duggan. Oh, he's not 50. Terry. Guys that have built muscle, girls that have built muscle over 50, you can absolutely do it. Is it harder? Yes. Why is it harder? Well, generally speaking, you've got a bit of an accumulation of injuries over time, number one. And number two is that your body just doesn't have the hormones at the levels that it once was. This said, you've seen guys and girls taking hormone replacement therapy that, are they able to build muscle? Absolutely they can. Now, I'm not saying that you should go out and do hormone replacement therapy. What I'm saying is that it is possible to build muscle after 50. It just gets a little bit more challenging, particularly as you go through menopause or as a man, your testosterone level is dropping off. So I do think in those cases, while I'm totally against steroid usage because I think that it's got its own problems, if actually you're taking testosterone replacement therapy or HRT just to bring your levels back to fucking normal so you actually feel like a normal human again, well then absolutely it's possible to build muscle over 50. Of course, you need a good training program. As you get over 50, your ability to digest and assimilate protein gets actually worse. So you actually need more protein the older that you get, but it is definitely possible to do with a good plan and a good nutrition plan, good training plan and good nutrition plan. How much caffeine is too much? That's a good question. Should I take my pre-workout and have my coffee still? Look, for me, caffeine, I don't see any major health side effects apart from the huge amount of stimulant that you're going to have by over consuming caffeine. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. That is a cup of instant coffee, and I have about 6 of these a day. 1 teaspoon, boom. That's pretty much all the coffee I drink unless I go out on a weekend and have a coffee. Do I think that's a problem? No. There's so much water in that it's actually hydrating, and I only use a tiny little bit of milk, and I don't use any sweetener or sugar. So it's not contributing a bunch of extra calories. So from a caffeine perspective, I actually don't know the total caffeine level between, say, this and an espresso or a long black or that type of thing. I haven't ever looked into it, but suffice to say, I don't think it's a problem. If you're taking pre-workout, look, I don't take pre-workout. The reason I don't take it is it just makes me feel way too wired, even though I drink a lot of coffee. So that tells me that most pre-workouts have a shitload of caffeine in it. If even though I drink 6 coffees a day, it still makes me feel wired. For me, I'm just not, I don't want to, I feel like maybe that might put my body under a little bit too much anxiety and stress, and I don't want to do that. If you want to take pre-workout and you don't drink coffee, I think that's completely fine. If you want to take pre-workout and coffee, sure, do so. I think you're probably going to underestimate how much of an impact it actually has on your sleeping. And that's a thing where if you have coffee or pre-workout after about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you are going to have sleep impacts, even despite what you think. I'm the sort of person that I go out to dinner and I have an espresso after dinner at double espresso at 8 o'clock at night. And I say to myself, it doesn't impact me. I think it probably does, if I'm honest. So I think that's the angle you've got to come at this from. Let me check if there's any questions coming from the team. If you want to ask anything, guys, just rip them into the comments and I am here to serve. All right, let's keep going. I have 30 pounds to lose. Okay, so a good, clear goal. What is the point in weight training when I can't even see my muscles yet? Should I be focusing on cardio just now? This is a great question, isn't it? And if you're a cardio queen, you'll be wondering the exact same thing. What is the point of weight training? Okay, there's a few reasons. I want you to think of your body like a mandarin or an orange or a banana. I want you to think of the skin as being the fat on the outside. When you pull back that skin or pull back that fat, which will happen as you get into your transformation, underneath that skin, you're going to see the fruit. The fruit is your muscle. And so if you've got rotten, skinny, dried up fruit underneath the skin, it doesn't matter if you take the skin off, it's still going to look really, really bad, right? You're not going to feel amazing. If you have muscle, but there is plenty of superficial fat on the top, this is a good thing for a couple of reasons. When you start to pull that layer of fat off, you're going to start to see some, what you guys would probably call tone, or men would call definition. This is a good thing. But the second thing that weight training does is as you're dieting down, your metabolism tends to slow down. If you're doing resistance training in the absence of a lot of cardio, it tends to speed your metabolism up. So when you've got this counteracting effect of your calories being driven down by you dieting and dieting and dieting, but you've got this anabolic effect of building muscle, at least you've got something to slow down the chances of you going into these long plateaus. I'll give you another example of what a lot of people do. They'll go into a massive calorie deficit, they'll cut their calories, they will do no resistance training, and they will do lots of cardio. The signals that your brain gets out of that is metabolism slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, and eventually you get into a plateau and you just can't do anything about it. And in that circumstance, you then have to go through basically a long period of reverse dieting for you to actually see any change. Does this make sense, guys? Again, if you've got any questions to everyone joining on live, you can ask any questions in the comments. And good morning to everyone coming in. If you're on Instagram and you're wondering who is he actually talking to, I am live inside of our client group and answering client questions. So, yeah. Next question. Is sugar addiction real? I've just started my journey and I can't seem to get through the day without craving something sweet. Yes, sugar addiction is real. And this is because if you actually study the brain, it lights up the same centers as alcohol and drugs. This dopamine, we have the sugar, we have this craving, and then the craving is fulfilled when we actually eat the sugar. I believe that one of the best ways that you can circumvent this is to understand, or at least be aware of, the difference between craving sugar and craving sweetness. Now, I don't know about this from a scientific perspective. I'm definitely knowing about this from a personal perspective. Let me ask you guys a question, and feel free to answer me in the comments because I'd be really interested in how you guys feel. If you have a sugar craving and then you have something like Diet Coke, sugar-free jelly, Halo Top ice cream, Wicked Sister, a protein bar, do you feel that sugar craving can be taken care of by eating those things? In my case, absolutely it does. I eat sugar-free jelly or ice cream, Halo Top style ice cream nearly every night. And my belief is that it is sweetness that you're craving, not sugar that you're craving. So when you get that sugar craving light up and you're like, oh man, I need to eat something. If you can just sub it in for something that's like sugar, but it's a sweetener, like the things that I just said, a chocolate protein bar, a sugar-free jelly, a sugar-free ice cream or a high-protein ice cream like Halo Top or a Wicked Sister or something like that, you crush the sugar craving and you don't get all the extra calories, but instead you get 20 grams of protein, as an example. You take a protein bar instead of a Mars bar, you get half the calories and 220 grams of protein. So it actually goes from being detrimental to actually beneficial. Does this make sense? Now, if you're in Better Body Academy and you haven't discovered the guides section of our Facebook group already, please just one of you do this. Go into the guides section, scroll down, and you will see guide 5 or 6, which is recipe cards, and you will see, boom, high protein banana ice cream. Oh my God. This is so freaking good. You have to make it, and it's so easy to make. You literally just blend some frozen bananas with some cacao and some protein and some yogurt. That's it. You put it in the freezer and boom, you leave it for an hour and it comes out the creamiest, most beautiful banana chocolate ice cream you will ever eat. The recipe is in the guide section along with a million other gems, which if you're in Better Body Academy and you haven't discovered the guide section yet, you are missing out. Vicky says, Quest protein bars with chocolate crunch give me that feeling. Exactly my point, Vic. I love that you said that. Charles says, no, I still crave, but if I eat like 2 eggs, it goes away. If I feed it with Halo Top, it gets worse, but that's just me. I don't think that it's just you, Charles. Actually, this happens to some people where because artificial sweeteners essentially light up the same areas as sugar, for some people, it can actually exacerbate their need to eat more. So I don't think that's abnormal, Charles. I think for a lot of people, it's normal. And so if that's you, then you've got to come up with a slightly better swap to make sure that that's taken away. And that's just a habit. What I would say is that if you're a sugar addict and you just absolutely love the sugar, well, like, it sounds fucking obvious, but don't keep stuff in your house so easy to get. If you've got a little stashy of your chocolates and that sort of stuff, what are you going to do as soon as you get like emotional or bored or what? You're just going to go and do that, right? Yeah, Lukey says not with Coke Zero, but low sugar sweets do the job. Yeah, beautiful. All right, we've got 3 more questions now. Vicky, I might be relying on you to help me with this question because I got absolutely no idea how to answer this question. I really hate cardio. As I've a lot of weight to lose. I find it uncomfortable, even with a good sports bra. What do you suggest? Vicky, can you're coming in here live, and any of you 30-odd girls that are watching, please give me some suggestions on a sports bra because I got no fucking idea because I don't wear one. However, what I will say is that if you are very overweight, you shouldn't be doing any cardio aside from walking or maybe riding on a bike. You should not be running and having a situation where your boobs are bouncing up and down because that is actually more of an injury risk and it's doing you more harm than good. Cardio is just not necessary at the start of your journey. It's not. If you want to lose all the weight and start running, by all means, fantastic. But it is an injury risk. And if it's going to lead to you burning out quicker, plateauing quicker. So at the start, you focus on your nutrition, you focus on your walking, and then add a couple of workouts that are not cardio based. Let's check the question. Me either. Have you met me? Yeah, fair enough. Natasha says aqua jogging. There you go. Well, the thing about aqua jogging is sounds like a funny thing to say that, but actually it's a really, really good idea. That compared to running is a really, really good idea because there's resistance from the water and the buoyancy supports you so your ankles and hips and back aren't just banging down, which is the problem. Just walk, babe, Vicky says. Exactly. Walk, 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 walk. We got 2 more questions left. When it comes to eating vegetables, does fresh or frozen matter? It matters exactly fuck nothing. Okay? It does not matter. Fresh, frozen, chopped, whole, does not matter. All that's happened with frozen veggies is they've taken the broccoli, put it in a packet and froze it. That's it. That's it. Nothing happens. So I think frozen vegetables are bloody amazing. If it saves you from actually having to go through the process of cutting everything up and oh my gosh, what a pain in the ass. Just take it from frozen, stick it in the microwave pouch, boom, done. Absolutely. That's a beauty. All right, final question. If there are nothing else from the crowd, what do we got here? Both myself and my partner are doing the program and he is losing weight faster than me. Yes. And I'm not going to divulge who this actually is, by the way. Is this normal? Is it just because I'm female? So here's the thing, right? Most people think that exercise is the number one thing that causes weight loss, and it's just not true. If you look at the amount of calories that you burn on a day, the major thing that determines that is just your baseline number of calories called your metabolism. That is determined mostly by the amount of muscle mass that you actually have or the bigger body that you have. So bigger bodies with more muscle will tend to burn fat quicker than smaller bodies. That's because the direct effect or ability to keep you alive is harder when you're bigger, when you've got more tissue. This is the reason why a bigger person has a higher metabolic rate or base metabolic rate or BMR. It's because they've got more tissue, fat and muscle that needs to be kept alive. So it needs blood, it needs oxygen, it needs food. And so if you are a woman and you're comparing your weight loss journey to a man, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, if you weigh about the same and you do about the same stuff, the man is generally speaking, historically from what I've experienced, going to lose weight quicker than the woman. And that is mostly to do with the fact that he is burning more calories at rest, doing nothing. It sounds unfair, but it's true. And so if you're a woman, you've got to take out of this that, yep, we're in this together, but I would not be comparing weight loss upon each other. I would not be getting in a race with your partner, and I would not be assigning any meaning like I'm not doing as well as him, because that is just not true. I'm going to scan the live for any questions. What do we got here? An active toddler who likes to run away is a great form of unintentional cardio. I am with you, George. Absolutely, girlfriend. I love that so much. Well, guys, that's a wrap from this morning. If you have any other questions, you can bang them through to us at the Success Team, or if you're on Instagram, shoot me a message. Other than that, hope it's been helpful. I'll see you guys soon. Be good. Peace.